I was online a couple years ago, like around 1 a.m., looking up old SpongeBob episodes as I was a huge fan as a kid. The new episodes they show on TV are complete crap. So after going through bad quality videos on fortune websites and other sites flooded with ads, I came across an unofficial website that had episodes and ad-free. Okay, the quality wasn't great, but it was better than most websites. On the bottom of the link that said SpongeBob Lost Episode. Being the idiot that I am, I clicked on it. Even though I thought it was probably a screamer or something like that, but I clicked on it anyway. I was bored enough to click on the video and watch it, and I totally forgot about looking for older episodes. The episode that video had poor quality, and the episode itself was pretty much forgotten by the writers. Like in every episode, it started with the theme song. The title card read Patrick's Leg, with the normal fun-filled bubble letters that we all know and love. The first thing that didn't seem right was the title card. The transition, instead of bubbles, it was as a blur of beginning of the episode. It started off like a little harmless SpongeBob episode, with SpongeBob and Patrick watching the sunset. But then Patrick decides to go sandboarding, so they do. But so pretty far normal episode, Patrick then decides to do some sort of trick on his sandboard but fails. As a result, Patrick falls and breaks his leg, and SpongeBob goes after him to see if he's okay. During this scene, instead of the usual Hawaiian-themed music, it was more suspenseful, more serious music plays. Also, Patrick screams more painfully as he normally would, enough that I could feel it. I guess that just makes sense. He just broke his leg. Nothing too fair out of the ordinary, right? Well, other than the episode title and the opening along with the music in the scene, it's pretty much like an ordinary episode. The scene that takes place at the hospital, where the doctors told Patrick that he has to be in the wheelchair for a little while. As they walk out, SpongeBob is pushing Patrick on his wheelchair until they run into some girls. The girls start talking to Patrick because of his leg and ask if they could sign his cast as they walk away with Patrick, leaving SpongeBob by himself. So far, this is going over a normal episode. I don't remember what exactly happened throughout the episode, so I'll skip some scenes. This is where it gets a little creepy. Later at that night, SpongeBob knocks at Patrick's door. In this scene, the background's more realistic than usual. However, I try to ignore it. Once Patrick opens the door and SpongeBob tells Patrick that he forbids him to see those girls again, Patrick gets furious. Not like he does normally. This was more realistic anger. He tells SpongeBob that he hates him, and the girls leave in fear. This is when I started to feel funny about the episode. SpongeBob then screams in an unusually deep voice, something like, "Oh yeah? Well, as long as you hate me, I can do this." And then he starts beating Patrick's broken leg violently with a rock. Then after that, the screen then goes to static with a fraction of a second. And then cuts to a scene where SpongeBob and Patrick were apologizing to something during the daytime. Except the lighting, animation, and voices don't match up. The animation in this was very poor, as if it was on a loop. And it goes on for a good 4 or 5 minutes. I was very creeped out, but I wanted to see how the episode ended. The screen then cuts to black for a minute or two, and then it cuts to a scene from another episode, where Patrick has Jeffrey, the jellyfish wagon, and says, "Come on, Jeffrey," and then that's when the screen goes to black again. But this time for about 30 seconds. Then it cuts to a CG animation of Patrick cutting SpongeBob open. Of course, a piece of broken coral that looked like realistic blood gushing out. Obviously, I can't really say so much about what actually happens, but looking at the screen with bloodshot detailed eyes, his mouth doesn't move, but you could faintly hear him say, "I knew this day would come," with an echoey voice. You could also hear SpongeBob laughing for some reason, and the scene goes on for another 3 minutes, but nothing is heard from the static, which gets louder and louder until it's unbearably loud. Then the episode credits come on, but there was a very faint image of the last scene still showing. My god, that image will burn in my mind forever. Of course, the untitled Plankton logo isn't shown as usual. After the video was over, it froze. I had to reload the page, but it wasn't available. I couldn't even find the website anymore. I even tried to look up Patrick's leg, but nothing came up. I understand if you don't believe me, but I know what I saw. It was even 1 in the morning. What the hell was I even doing online at that time? And that, my little pretties, was Patrick's Leg, a SpongeBob Lost episode creepypasta. My final thoughts on the story? This is actually a pretty good SpongeBob creepypasta. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I actually really found this SpongeBob creepypasta to be enjoyable. Now, I do remember, Andal narrated this sometime, I guess a few years ago or something. I do remember, Andal narrated this story. So, I decided to take a look at it. I didn't narrate this back in 2019, but I definitely have to say I've seen a couple individuals. Like, I remember Shadow narrated this story. It was a pretty interesting story. I really liked Patrick's Leg. This story actually was pretty well made in detail. I know, yes, it may be just a little bit cliched, but it's still a pretty good story. I really still find this one to be a really good story for what it is. It's a pretty good story for what this one is. It had a really good detail going for it, and I actually really liked how this went out. Now, to be completely honest, this story actually provided pretty good detail. I really do like how this went out. This was actually a pretty good story for what this one is. Now, I do remember maybe this story I guess you could say a couple years ago. I kind of have seen it, but I probably just didn't narrate it because I just didn't have, the time. But now I am going out of my way and, narrating this. This is actually a pretty good story. Now, if I had to say one thing I wasn't like a really fan of, it's not a major thing, but I kind of wish that the story was a little longer. Maybe that could be it, but other than that, the story itself, it was actually pretty well done. I definitely have to say that this story actually was pretty well made in detail. It was amazing. I really do like this story. Now, I could definitely say that, Patrick Star, this is actually believable in a SpongeBob creepypasta. Like, I could honestly see this happening. So, this is something that I could honestly see this as a real episode. I honestly can sit there and see this. I don't know how or why, but for some reason, I can honestly see this happening. I definitely have to say that this is actually very believable. I have not watched SpongeBob in like a while. Like, I think the last time I saw it was when I was younger, but I still really like this story. It's still a pretty good story for what it is. It's really well made in detail. I honestly really found, SpongeBob to be rather amazing. Now, I definitely have seen, lots of people have sat there and narrated this story, so I thought I'd go ahead and, narrate this story. This story was actually pretty good for what it is. It's really well made. Really have to say that this story actually was pretty good. Now, the one thing I could definitely say that I wish was a little different was maybe the story being a little longer. Like, maybe if the story was just a bit longer, maybe that way I would be able to have more enjoyable to the story. But other than that, the story itself was really well made in detail. Like, the grammar was pretty good and all that. Like, I mean, maybe there were a couple grammatical errors in the story, but I still found the story to be rather amazing for what it is. It actually had a very good concept going for it. There was definitely a lot of time and effort into it, and I obviously really have to say that this story was pretty well made in detail. But I guess maybe that's just me, but I really don't know. But yeah, I could definitely say that this story actually was pretty amazing for what this one is. Now, I have seen some other stories, other videos regarding to this story. It actually was pretty well made in detail, and I really do have to say that this story was pretty good. Now, I'm definitely have to say this right now, that it's fine if you don't like this story. I know some people kind of have mixed feelings for this one, so I definitely have to say, that's everyone's opinion on what they like and don't like, but I definitely have to say that this story was actually pretty well made in detail. It actually went out very good. I like this story, but I could definitely say this story actually was a pretty well made concept for what this story is. Now, I'm gonna sit here and say this right now, that this is just simply my own personal opinion, and if you happen to disagree with me, that's fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions in regards to these creepypastas, and this is simply my own personal thoughts. My final rating of the story, I'm going to give this one a 9 out of 10. I'm giving it a 9 out of 10 is because it's pretty good. It was really well made in detail. I really like this story. It actually went out pretty well made. It was awesome. Really like it. I definitely have to say it was actually pretty well made for what this is. So I definitely have to say this story was actually amazing. Really do have to say that I kind of remember, seeing this. I'm not really sure if any of you guys want to, read this, but if you guys want to, you can. This story, I have to say, flat out amazing. Really well made in detail. Really like it. I just really found this story to be rather good and well made. So I definitely have to say that I really do like this story. So I guess maybe that's what it is, but I'm not really sure. But, to be honest, and I'm gonna sit here and say this right now, what did you guys think about this creepypasta? Did you all enjoy it? Did you not? Also, what we have done personally to help make this story a lot better? Leaving out your thoughts are down in the comment section down below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode, and if you happen to be brand new here on this channel, be sure to like, comment, subscribe because I make brand new videos every single day. Don't forget to ring the notification bell to when I upload so then you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, please roll the outro because I'm out.